It helps with your blood circulation. It makes you happier, healthier. It literally improves your brain chemistry. Hey everybody, my name is Nadége. I'm a sex scholar, best-selling author, and the founder of Pleasure Science, and today I'm going to talk about sex with Sarah.
Hi everyone, I'm Sara Loverays. I am a live streamer and content creator in the adult industry, and I have a background in physical therapy. Let's talk about sperm. Can you increase your sperm volume, your semen volume?
Yeah, this is another one where we don't really have any medical evidence that would show that you can increase your sperm volume. But what's interesting is we do have anecdotal evidence. There's two different types of evidence when we're studying something, especially when it comes to human nature, right? So we have the scientific data, but we also have anecdotal data, people's real experiences and people talking about them. And since we live in the age of the internet, anecdotal data is actually getting more and more popular, which is wonderful. Yeah. We do see a lot of anecdotal evidence where a lot of people saying that if they don't masturbate as frequently or they take a break between masturbation, they'll have a bigger load. So again, I can't say that the data says that this is
conclusive.
Exactly, yeah, like what's the right word? But we do see a lot of anecdotal evidence, and it's really important to pay attention to these anecdotal evidences because as much as, I'm a pleasure scientist who literally owns a company with the word science in the name.
That's like the coolest scientist ever, by the way.
It's fun, never a dull moment. But I will say one of the things that I always try to remind myself and others when it comes to science is we're also dealing with a system that is not sex positive, right?
True.
And we're dealing, it wasn't even legal to study women's bodies until 1993.
Wow.
So we may not have the data in some areas, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't pay attention to your personal experience and the experiences of others and this anecdotal data, like I was saying. It's really important when it comes to the study of sexuality. So there is anecdotal data that suggests that if you pause between masturbations or take a break, maybe wait a few days, wait a week, wait even 2 weeks, you can have a bigger load. However, I will also say that masturbation is incredibly healthy, and I don't encourage you to wait too long between masturbations because masturbation can increase your lifespan. It helps with your blood circulation. It makes you happier, healthier. It literally improves your brain chemistry. So while I want you to have the best nut, always, I also encourage you to masturbate frequently. I love that you asked me this question, and I actually have a question for you.
Sure.
So have you noticed as a performer that either you or other performers, especially women or cisgendered women, find it to be attractive when someone has a bigger nut or a bigger load? Or do you think people prefer that? Like, what has your experience?
That's a good question. I think as far as the load size, I would say it matters more to the audience for visual pleasure. As far as being a participant in the experience, it's just exciting to make that person come.
Yeah.
Regardless of the load size, and I think we're all very understanding if they've had multiple scenes or we've done multiple shows, that the experience is going to be different. And I think it shows a little realness with sex.
Yeah.
Sometimes you might masturbate more often than not, or if you take a break like you mentioned, it might look different. But I know other people have had experiences with vasectomies too, and worrying about the color of their sperm and whether they can keep performing as an adult creator. But for the most part, it hasn't really affected their career.
Yeah,
there's
cool
ways
to
around
know.
that.
Yeah, and I loved what you said about like the visual pleasure and the pleasure for the audience too, And I think when it comes to these things like penis size, load size, what we're focusing on is this like external pleasure, right? It doesn't have to do with our body, but it has to do with this like aesthetic that we want to maintain with sex. And I feel like we have a real struggle in our culture where we attach so much sexual worth and value to the aesthetics of how something looks or how we look when we're and all of these things, which doesn't necessarily translate to like your orgasmic bodily experience.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's a lot of folks on the autistic spectrum, like hearing you talk about this reminded me of how like there's a lot of folks on the autistic spectrum who don't like fluids and so prefer sex to be a drier experience. And so never assume,
that makes sense.
right? That like you should be trying to have this big nut because everybody likes it. You know, you could fall for someone and that may not be their preference, right? So, you know, to each their own.
I love that, yeah.